What's up, Scoop Podcast? I'm your host, Eric Triplett. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest. Eric Triplett, the pond digger, is here to chat with us. What's up, Eric?
What's up, people?
Ooh, I'm really excited about this. We met not too long ago. Would you say about a month ago?
Yeah, about a month.
In the LCR, we went to the LCR summit. We were both at it was like a VIP dinner. You were chatting, you're super sociable, and then our hotels were next to each other. And I found out that you had a gym at your hotel, and I think I just kind of invited myself to come and work out. Is that how it happened?
I invited you actually,
You did?
but
Okay.
but it was like I was like, hey, I'm gonna work out in the gym in the morning if you want. It's 5 a.m. and you're like, okay, like there was no thought process. You're just like, yep, I'll be there. I was like, oh, she's serious.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
was there at 5 a.m. and
yeah,
it was a good workout.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah. How have you been with your working out? Didn't you hurt yourself a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I threw my knee out.
Yeah.
Actually, at LCR at the Equip show, actually, but it
Seriously?
didn't. Yeah, yeah. Because it was I did a leg workout that one day, and I normally work out and then I do like a 3 mile ruck. That's been my routine for the past 6 or 8 months. And so I did the leg workout, but I was also hitting like 5 miles at the Equip show. So I was going out at night and then I was hitting the Equip show and then I did leg workout. And then on Friday, basically I was headed home on Friday. My knee was just like really, really in trouble. So I took a little bit of time off, but yeah, I'm still eating good and yeah, all that fun stuff.
That's good because you were doing 75 hard while you were there, right?
Yeah, I failed on the Monday coming home because I was like limping, man. I could just barely go. And then, it's interesting because I take that stuff seriously, but I was literally I got sick while I was at Equip. Came down with a cold, came home Monday, my knee hurt, I felt sick, and then I had to travel straight to Denver for a week. And so I just slept that day and just said I'll have to catch up later.
So I will say, coming back from Equip, I was so drained that like that whole entire week, I struggled to do much of anything. And so honestly, if I would have been doing 75 hard, I probably would have failed too.
Well, I would have pushed through, but being sick and my knee hurt, it was just not good for me. But it was weird because since we met at Equip and LCR Summit, I was in Denver for a week, I was in Japan for a week, and then imagine coming back. I was in Louisville for a week, right, and then I had to come back and make sure everything was cool, and then out to Denver for a week, and then come back and make sure everything was cool, and then I was here for like maybe a week before I went to Japan. So I was there for a week. So like it's a little crazy over here right now, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and I'm super fascinated with it. And this is why I wanted to get you on the podcast because you're doing a lot. You've been in business for quite a while, which I'll have you talk about that here in a minute. You travel, you're doing coaching, you have the podcast, you have the social media. You did a presentation at the LCR Summit where I took so many notes. I mean, I just wrote a ton. You provided so much value in that short period of time. So if you can, just give the listeners your highlight reel, your backstory.
The backstory is I'm passionate about fish, and that turned into my pond business. So I like to think that I'm better than your average pond builder because a lot of pond builders come from just like the landscape industry, and then they're like, hey, I can build a pond, and a lot of them are good artists and stuff, but they don't understand the ecology of the way the fish go together, as deeply as I do. So I think that gives me a fun little edge. But, I've always been this outgoing person, just like I was with you, when I met you and everyone else in the VIP. And so I'm just very talkative and stuff. So I've just been helping contractors for 25 years. Right. But in the past, 4 years, I've been doing it more at a professional level where, I have a coaching group and all that stuff. So, because of my over 25 years, I've been in the business of doing ponds, and I go to all the conventions just like that. And you see, I'm sociable, so all of a sudden I'm in speaking engagements. So it's always been kind of my thing. Several events every year, connecting with all these people. Multiply that times 20 years, then So now people are like, "Hey, can you come speak at my event?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool, that'd be great." So it's kind of all snowballed like that to where I'm at today.
Well, you were talking about being sociable and you talk. you not only talk, but you ask thoughtful questions and you listen. That is something that I noticed about you is you're chatting, you're doing your thing, but you would ask questions and then you would be silent. And I have a hard time with that, and that really caught my attention. And so then you talked about being comfortable with the silence in your sales process. And so that's what I want to talk about today is because pooper scoopers, it's like I don't know. We're all struggling unless you have a lot of money to dump into advertisement. It's like, how do you advertise? It's a low ticket price. How do you get creative? How do you get people to respect your business? And so that's kind of what I would like to dive into. Are you,
Okay.
you cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you start developing your sales process? Like how did that kind of progress over your lifespan of being a business?
So without going down too deep of a rabbit hole, I'll just tell you, and maybe you don't know this about me, but in 2015, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had throat cancer. Okay. And so like by that time in 2015, I'd already been in business for 16 years. And so I literally shut my construction company down and I kept, a big section of my business in, manufacturing and retail and all that stuff. I kept all that stuff. Some service and repair kind of things were going on, but I took 2.5 years off from my construction company to get better. And so everything that I had done in business up to that point, when I got better, I was like, should I start building again? What should I do? And I was like, okay, I'll take on a couple of small projects. But I was literally a different human being. I thought differently. I sold differently. I was just a different person. And one of the tricky parts was in 2015, I had a world class construction business building water features. We were recognized across the globe, right? From YouTube and all that stuff. And then when I thought it was done, I set all my team up. I was like, hey, let's get your contractor's license. You go out and do your own thing. So I set my crews up that had been with me 10, 15 years, and I sent them out on their own business, right? But so when I got better, I didn't have a team. I didn't have this world-class team behind me anymore. So I sold differently. I sold with some insecurity because I was like, who's going to help me build? I sold with some insecurities like, should I go really hard because it's going to create the stress that created maybe the cancer? Like all that stuff was going on in my mind. So in 2019, I basically started building again, but I sold differently and I had to reinvent myself. And so that's kind of where that whole thing process went. Books and coaching groups and podcasts and training and coaching. And, I was getting coached by other people. I went really hard on that in like 2020. And so I just transformed who I was at that point. And so that's the reason for where I'm at today, helping people like you did at LCR Summit, like you saw.
The contractors that you train, are you just training people that are doing water features or is it other contractors or other business owners?
Yeah, I mean, I have lawn care, like low ticket stuff, like you
Yeah.
said, right? Like, and I don't mean to talk down, but it's like, hey, it's a $35 mow, right, or whatever. So low ticket in that regard to, general contractors. So I got GCs in there, electricians in there. I have people who specialize in kitchen remodels and bathroom remodels. Like, just it's a full gamut. I mean, I have a guy. I just put out a podcast. You should listen to it. It just came out this week. It's a contractor. He's a general contractor in France, and he takes care of castles and old buildings that are from the 1400s. And he's older than me, so it's like teaching old dogs new tricks in a country far, far away. Like, how can someone from America who's younger than me teach me something to make me be able to communicate with my clients better? It's like impossible, right? And so, we talk about how everything that I taught him helped him in his business so far away, right? So, yeah, we help everybody.
Oh, I listened to that podcast when you said, explain why you talk funny. I was like, oh, Eric.
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, because you're born and raised in California, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
To me, when you speak, you sound like a Kardashian to me. Like your dialect is, I don't know how you pronounce certain things. I'm like, oh, I can tell he was born and raised in California.
Oh, funny.
No, that was a good episode. Actually, I've been loving all of your episodes. Your podcast is amazing.
Thank you.
You're bringing a ton of value. So you brought up the landscaping, low ticket items. It is. We're low ticket items, but we're high volume. So when you're training and you're speaking to somebody that is just trying to, like, they're trying to grow their business, they don't know what to do. They're thinking about going and passing out 5,000 door hangers because they think that's going to get them a ton of customers, right? That's going
Mhm.
to bring people in the door. What would you say to somebody like that right off the bat?
Well, I mean, it's a multi-pronged approach and it takes a long time. Just like 5,000 pieces seems like a lot to most people if you're just getting started in business, but like 50,000 pieces would be baseline where you might get a decent amount of work, right? So a lot of times people put out 300 flyers and they think like, "Oh, I just really went hard at this," when it's just barely scratching the surface. So, I mean, I just don't want people to like count their chickens before they hatch, right? Count their eggs before they hatch, right? So when they're doing stuff like that, they like your car is so awesome. Like when I after I met you, I knew your thing was pink and your vibe was all that. But then when I started to like check your page out, I was like, oh, this is serious. Like this is a really loud vehicle, right? This is nice that everyone pops out in pink. Like this is like we're in town. We might be scooping poop, but like we're doing it flashy, right? I mean, I thought it was amazing. So it's like it has to be that combined with some community outreach. It has to be that combined. Like I immediately was thinking like, how can you get involved with the Humane Society? Like, can you go in once a month there and do some kind of like, did I just make that up or have you done something like that?
I mean, people have, but this is an
Yeah.
excellent point. People don't think about this kind of stuff. So let's dive a
Yeah.
little bit more
Like,
into it.
so I would show up in all your vehicles and be at the Humane Society and either be donating food or donating time and helping cleaning dog bowls and things like that, and then market it as, and it's kind of like hopefully everyone that's on your team loves animals too, right? So like it should be part of who you are, and you loving animals. You go out there and you help donate time to them and maybe help find homes for certain dogs. Like there's a lot of those like yaps in town next to me, and they adopt out dogs all the time, right? And so I think that would be a fun part of the thing. So and then what else can you do, right? And is there a yard sign? Is there, are you knocking on the neighbor's doors? Are you, there's so many different ways that you can market. You can't just decide that you're going to do 5,000 pieces, which seems extraordinary to some people, but it's just scratching the surface.
I went and put out, I don't know how many yard signs I put out, but it was just on the streets around 3 houses that I scoop. And you
Hmm.
could have told me that I walked 50,000 miles that day. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh, I put out so
Yeah.
many yard signs. So it does. It feels really huge. How many calls do you think I received from those door hangers?
Probably none.
0.
Yeah.
So if you have let's say a smaller business owner, right? They're doing 100, they got 100 customers. They're trying to figure out if they can hire, but they don't really have enough customers to fully hire yet. But they're trying to like get over that next hump because they're bringing in, let's say, $100,000, and they don't have a ton of time to delegate to this. What do you think would be a really strong kind of organic content strategy or marketing strategy to get the ball rolling for a lower ticket price?
Yeah. So the bootstrap stuff is like you said, you got to knock on doors and you have to, it doesn't cost you anything to go and donate time to the local humane society, right? And to help adopt out dogs. That community outreach is really big. So for us, like what I did to really grow my business in '99, I did a build a pond event where I went to a nursery. I was like, look, I'll give you a pond for free. I'll come in here. I'll invite everyone here. I'll even cook hot dogs for everyone. So I'm making an event. So I did several of those, and it grew my business exponentially. It was community. I was teaching people how to do it, and hopefully people would hire me, and then I could have my sign next to the pond, right? So that was really cool. And maybe the Humane Society would let you, when you see on the freeway, it's like, hey, this section of the freeway is taken care of by so and so. Like it would be cool if like, hey, we're taking care of these dogs, and you have the croupins, pooping, scooping, pink tag on the cage. Like we're committed to getting these dogs homes in this enclosure or whatever. And that just takes time. Because like if you either have a lot of money to pay for it or you have to do it with time, right? And that would be walking doors, knocking on doors, passing stuff out, passing out the flyers and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of the starting point right there.
Yeah, because a lot of my audience right now, they have more time than money, or they don't have a lot of time, but they don't have a lot of money. And they're kind of like in that in
Hmm.
between where they're trying to like figure it out. Now, say for instance, if you were coaching somebody and you told them that, right? And they're like, oh,
Hmm.
I just don't have time. I don't feel like doing it. Is there something
Yeah.
else? Like, what would you say to that person that's like making
You-
excuses?
You're not built for this. Yeah. Yeah. You're just not built for it. I mean, it hurts, but I mean, some people just aren't. They just aren't. So I'll tell you this, I hired this guy that worked for another pond builder. Okay. And it was weird because that other pond builder was kind of retiring and moving out, and he still had a couple of customers. So this guy was like, kind of like, oh, I'm going to buy his business. And it wasn't working out. He's screwing me over, victim mentality shit. I hired him to try him out. I thought it might work. He lasted about 3 or 4 weeks. He was terrible. I let him go. And then like 2, 3 months later, he calls me back, because he worked for the other guy and he was going to buy his business and take it over. And since he was screwing him over, he was just doing it on his own. And he called me like 2 months later. He's like, bro, I'm so tired of like every day trying to figure out where I'm going to make my money. Can you just please hire me? And I said, no, you're not even cut out working for me, let alone, doing it on your own. Right. Some people they're just not, they don't have it in their DNA. They're not cut right.
Let's talk about that a little bit more because, online you see a lot of people that's like, you can do this, you can be a business owner, anybody can do this, blah 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 blah, and they give you a bunch of fluff. Let's talk about like what are the characteristic traits of people that fail in business that aren't cut out for it.
So a lot of those coaching groups they're trying to inspire anyone to pay. Like that guy, if he could come up with 5 grand or 10 grand to pay that person, then he would get the coaching, but he still might not be cut to do it. Right. I believe heavily in personality typing, personality profiling. I think we talked about that in the LCR summit, but um, understanding who you are, like some people like a number 6 personality type in Enneagram. And I don't want to go too deep in all those other things, but they make decisions slow and they're very nervous and they're scared. And I have friends that are like that. And if I tell my friend, like, you're just scared, you're a number 6. He's like, well, I'm not scared. I'm just concerned. I'm like, okay, that means scared to me, because I'm an 8 personality. I'm more like outgoing. I'm like, just get it done, jump and we'll figure out how to do it. They need like 20 steps outlined before they might make a move and just step into step number 1. By that time I'm already on step 14, right? I'm already like making some mistakes, making corrections and moving forward. And that happens every day. And they might take 2, 3 weeks before they make the move. But I've already made the move on day 2.
When we met, did you instantly, not instantly, but what personality did you think that I had just from our initial like conversations?
It takes me a while. I'm not an expert about this, so it takes me a while to kind of figure it out. But you were outgoing, you're independent. I don't remember what number you are. I'm sure you told me. But you're outgoing, you're independent. You're a woman in man's world. Like all these guys were there, but you were like, hey, I'm here to learn. I don't care. I'm proud and outgoing. So I don't remember what number you were. Do you? What
Well,
number are you?
I was on the Enneagram. I used to be a 7 because I used to be
Uh-huh.
carefree and fun.
Oh
But I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think,
You told me
yeah, I don't think I'm that anymore. I think I
that.
definitely have changed. But
I,
I could
I
tell. I
don't.
knew you were an 8 because how your personality was, and then on the
Mhm,
disc profile when you started talking about it, and I was like, he's got to be a strong DI, probably
mhm,
like a lot of D.
mhm. So here's the thing: sevens are a little hard for me to realize unless I get to know you a little bit better. Because a 7 is like, hey, let's do something crazy this weekend. Like, oh, this person's leaning in that 7 direction, right? Like, that might be like, hey, would you jump out of an airplane? And like, you don't ask that to someone when you just meet them, right? Unless I really want to know, maybe I do that. Like, have you ever gone skydiving? That would be a fun way to do it, right? You'd be like, oh no, I'm terrified. Okay, maybe they're not a 7,
So,
right?
Josh, my husband, he's been skydiving. He's taken me twice to go, and each time there's been issues and complications. I'm deathly afraid. I don't want to do it. So that's why I'm like, I don't think I'm a 7 anymore because I used to think I was a 7 with a 6 wing because indecisive, but the indecisiveness came from lack of confidence. And as I have grown as a business owner and as a woman,
Mhm.
I've gained more confidence. So I was like, maybe, maybe I have more 8 in me
Mhm.
than I thought.
See, again, I'm not an expert, but I would say if you're a 7, you're probably just still a 7. It's just like you're figuring yourself out. You might be a 7 wing 8, because how you grew up, you were more, you lacked some confidence, right? So that's why you felt like you were a 6. So I'd be curious to take that because I took the disc profile test, you know, I don't know, 18 years ago, and my wife kept the folder because she was so fascinated by it. Because when she read it, it was like me to the T. She's like, "This is exactly who you are." It's just crazy, right? So, but back then I was like 42% I and like 40% D, and now those have switched, but only by 2 points, three. So now I'm 41% D and 39% I, and then real low on SC. So I don't think it changed. I don't think it swings that hard. Like I couldn't go from a D to an S, like it couldn't swing that fast. Right. So I don't know. I imagine you're still 7, but 7 wing 8.
Yeah, I'll retest. If you guys that are listening, you're curious what the heck this is. So the DI, that's the disc profile. I can have Mr. Producer include a link down in the description. And then the 8 with the 7 wing or the 6 wing, that's the Enneagram. And a lot of times, if you are one personality on one, it usually coincides with the other personality test. They're fascinating. You can learn a lot about yourself, I wouldn't say like dive too much into it because you can put yourself into a box and then you start thinking like, this is how I need to operate because this is what the personality test told me.
Well, that's that. I would lean into Enneagram because Enneagram teaches you how to grow. DISC doesn't really teach you how to grow; it just teaches you how to communicate, right? And that's why those profiles are so important to me. Which just brings us back to like, who is the personality? Who is the person that can grow, right? Like, I think all the numbers can win and be successful in business, right? But I think the better understanding of themselves helps. So like a 1 personality is a perfectionist. And so they might not move quickly because they just have to have things perfect before they move to the next step. And I think in business, sometimes you got to get through it clumsy and fix things along the way. Maybe you have a business partner that's, really a, someone who pushes really hard, like an 8. Like a good business partner might be a 1 to help clean me up a lot as I go. All right. So sometimes partnerships can be helpful in that regard. But yeah, I think 4s can be very emotional. That could be tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy.
It is. When I go to hire, we don't want to hire like a DI. We definitely don't want to hire a strong I personality because I's are super talkative. They like to be social. As a pooper scooper, we need somebody that is focused, that is intentional because they need to not zone out and not be thinking about other things other than I need to get these poop piles. So that has actually really helped with my new hire and Charles is doing great.
And who is he? What's his number? What's his number?
I didn't have him do an Enneagram, I just had him do the DISC
Oh.
test.
And what did he come in as an S or a C? A C
He
would be great.
An SC or CS, those
Yeah.
were his 2 prominent, and he was low on the other ones, and I was like, "Great, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need."
Yeah. Well, I would be like, I would want to know if they're a number 1 because they're a perfectionist. Like, I'm going to get every scoop. I'm going to turn over every leaf and make sure it's perfect. But you know what? I've had ones that were too slow. Like I had an assistant once that was a 1, and she was too detailed. I'm like, I don't need that many details. I could figure out with very, very little details. Let's play Pictionary and I'll show you. You know what I mean? Like, so like a 1 can be there too long.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
five's a good one. Five's a pretty good one.
5, I can't remember what a 5 is.
Investigator, and so they're very like their attention to detail. So if you had a five Enneagram with a CS, I mean, you're probably hitting a home run.
Would that be somebody you would want in the office? I feel like that's a good like, they're gonna help
Oh
you
yeah,
stay organized.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So we're personality types really important. We're trying to figure out like who doesn't. Who doesn't do well in business? From what I've seen, it's the people that make excuses and they don't take accountability for what's going on.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, I just let go of a guy, yesterday because of that exact same reason. It's like he'd only been with me like 3 weeks, and he backed a truck up into something, and I'm like, bro, what happened? He's like, oh well, I just couldn't see. I'm like, well, why couldn't you see? He's like, well, there was stuff in the back of the truck, and I'm like, well, we have vans as well. What happens? Does that mean you can't drive my van? Because you have to actually use your mirrors and common sense. But it was like real victim mentality shit. Like, oh, I crashed because there was something in the back of the truck, and so I'm like, this is probably not going to work out. And there was other red flags, but yeah, victim mentality stuff is just the worst.
All right. So basically, if you're making excuses of why you can't go out and market, why you can't outreach to people, why you're not
Mhm.
calling the customers, why you're not having those conversations with your staff about issues, are we thinking maybe you need to do some more training or you're not cut out for the business? What are we thinking?
Yeah. 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 Well, I think training is always worth it. It's always worth the try because I mean, I think I struggle a lot about, there's 8 personality types like myself that are billionaires. And then there's 8 personalities like myself that are homeless on the streets with no job. You know what I mean? So I do believe that any person can overcome it, but they need to find a good trainer. There's a lot of coaching out there. Like I'm not for everybody, right? And when I was in a coaching group, there was like 5 coaches in the group, and like one of them I hated, right? And 2 of them I thought were just all over the top awesome, and the other one I was like, oh, whatever, like they could come or go. It doesn't really matter to me. But like when you connect with someone at a very deep level, I think that's where you can really grow. And I think a lot of coaches, I want to touch on this. I don't mean to interrupt you, but like if you got some coaching, that doesn't mean you're going to be a billionaire suddenly. Like you might have to have that coach and then have another coach and then level up and then get a different coach and have a coach in the business side, have a coach in the sales side. You might have a coach on the marketing side, right? It's not just, hey, I spent $5,000 with this guy on coaching and all my troubles should go away. I should be a billionaire now, you know?
Well, and two, like you can get all the coaching you want, but if you don't implement what it is that you're learning,
Yep.
it's all noise.
Yeah.
So
I think that's important that you said that.
yeah. No, because I've been there. I will do like too much knowledge. I listen to too many books, too many podcasts, too many YouTube videos with not a lot of action. And I think we can kind of get like overloaded. So
Hmm.
I like the point where you said different coaches for different aspects of your business. So say for instance, if you're having issue with closing jobs, you want to talk to somebody that's good at closing. And this is something that you talked about during your presentation is getting comfortable with the silence and closing. So, can we talk a little bit about that when we give somebody our price and they're like, nope, it's too expensive? Well, whatever the excuse is, it's usually always, no, I don't want to pay that price.
So I think there's 2 questions there. It's like the one is overcoming objections and one is silence, right? So, I mean, because of my training, I think I want to ask valuable questions. And I don't think I used to be that way because I have a high I personality as well. I can be very talkative. And in the past, I've talked right over my clients. Back then, I was so excitable and so passionate. Call it passion. It was stupidity, right? Just talk over people, right? So you got to be able to control that. And when I'm in a room like you saw at that VIP meeting, I'm going to ask you an open ended question, right? Like, hey, do you work out? Yes. I might say something like, seems like, you take care of yourself. And then you'd be like, well, yeah, I work out. I get up at 4 in the morning. And all of a sudden you're talking for 5 minutes. And I just said a 30-second question, right? And then I might open you up with another question. Then all of a sudden you're talking again. And at the end of the conversation, you're like, man, I really enjoyed talking to Eric when you did all the talking. So, like I had you on the right and then I had Mike on the left, and I'd ask him an open-ended question and he'd go off on a tangent. And I just sat there like taking it all in, like, okay, who's who do I like? Who do I want to network with? Who has a podcast? Like that's what I'm trying to take in. And so the same thing should happen when you are talking to a prospect. Get them to talk, right? You might find that you're in there talking your ass off. And then, whatever service call is $25 a stop or $35 a stop. They're like, this person's just going to talk the whole time I'm here. I don't even want them on my property. They talk too much. They're full of themselves. They're annoying. I would pay the 35, but I don't want to hear them talk the whole time. So and then they're going to go like, I don't want to pay that much money. They tell you you think that's an objection that you're too much money, but you're talking too much. So sometimes that's happening.
I get what you're saying. I talk too much and I over talk. And so that's why it caught my eye or my ear, how you were kind of working the room and asking the open-ended questions. So there's two questions I want. You said ask open-ended questions. How did you learn and how did you train yourself to ask those type of questions?
Well, a lot of it was through my coaching programs that I did. But one book that is super critical, I talked about, it's Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who I bumped into while I was in Louisville. Got goosebumps again.
You want to tell the story? Can you? Wait, tell it.
Oh, man. Do we have that much time? Okay. At the LCR Summit, Naylor closed down one of the nights. It was a really cool, like a visionary kind of moment where like you close your eyes and like I want you to imagine these things and I want you to manifest things, right? And, you hear Ed Milet talk about manifestation and Andy Frisella and all these people. So it was a cool exercise. But, one of the things was like reach out to people that you think are untouchable, like you can't get to them, right? So when I went back to the hotel, I took a quick nap because I was out of time zone and all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to reach out to Chris Voss. And he's the one that wrote the book, Never Split the Difference. And that's one of I learned a lot about open-ended questions in that book. So I would highly recommend that one to anyone. But as I was headed back to have dinner, I was about 5 minutes late. Like I was behind schedule. So I was in a hurry, walked through this dark bar and I'm being guided by a waitress in the dark bar, walking through to get to the private elevator to go upstairs to the VIP event. And I just had this weird sensation to my right. I'm like, that's Chris Voss right there. And it was just really weird, right? And it's dark. I see a silhouette from behind his back. And I walked past him all the way to the elevator. And I asked that waitress, I said, can you just give me 1 minute, please? I'll be right back. And I turned around, started walking that direction. And I was like, there's no way this is Chris Voss. There's no way. But as I was walking towards him, that's how far away I was. I had enough time to consider these things. And I was like, well, sure, the same build as Chris Voss. I'm like, it's impossible. There's no way it's Chris Voss. I'm like, I don't know. It's the same height. I'm like, these are the conversations I'm having. And as I'm walking up, I'm like, no, it's impossible. There's no way. And then I started talking to myself. I'm like, well, maybe he's here at Equip. Maybe he's going to be doing a talk. Maybe he's a guest, And then I walk up and I'm like, Chris Voss. And he turns around and I'm like, I just want to tell you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your book has changed my life. I just wanted to thank you for that. And we shook hands and we talked for a second. I asked him for an email address so I could reach out to him. He gave it to me and I let him go. I turned around and walked away. So it was like a manifestation moment right there. It was crazy.
Why I wanted you to share that story is because you weren't sure, right? And you're like, okay, I'm just going to go and check. Some people would have been like, no, not happening. I'm just going to go upstairs because they're scared or they were unsure. If somebody has that type of opportunity or has something similar situation, what's something that they can do to even walk up to that person, have that icebreaker conversation, not over talk, keep it smooth, short, to the point, and then get on?
I'm so many times in this conversation, I keep thinking about personalities. Like, what would a 6 do? Like, they'd be afraid, right? I don't know, man. I really believe like we're here for a very short amount of time. And I think these opportunities hit us all the time. I've probably walked past opportunities like that in my life countless amounts of times. And so it takes some experience of missing those opportunities, right? I'm in my mid 50s now. So, now I realize, hey, I'm a lot closer to the end than I'm halfway to heaven for sure, right? So I don't know how many more of those opportunities I'm going to have. And I think we're younger, 18 to 35, you feel like you're invincible. You got the whole, you got a long time to go, which you do. But I think it comes from training too. Like, so I want to share like my specialty is communications, contractor communications. I know numbers. I can, like, a lot of times I have to help a contractor with their numbers. A lot of times I have to help them psychologically with their divorces and, their kids. And like, I'm going through all this shit, but I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to teach you how to talk to people well. Right. So, I think that communication style that I lean into so heavily, it's okay to walk up to that person and know, like, just go in easy. Don't just start, don't interrupt. I think I have a lot of emotional intelligence. So I knew I was going to be interrupting something, but so went in very polite and respectful, right? And I didn't just go, hey, I got Chris Voss. I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to hug him. I didn't get a selfie. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just said, hey, I just want to tell you that you really changed my life. I appreciate you. And that was that. I think that was enough for me. And I think if I would have stayed longer and tried to get a selfie and then, hey, can I see you tomorrow? Like, it just would have been too much. So I think that's important.
Yeah, it was thoughtful. You were in and you were out. Okay. I love that. And then we can move on to, you also mentioned, like, during the sales process, that asking valuable questions. Can you give some examples, or what are valuable questions that you're going to be asking during the sales process?
Okay, so I haven't given enough thought to relate it exactly to your business, and maybe that's something we can work on. But like, for me, if I'm looking for a pain or pleasure principle thing. So is it, like, for my business, I build beautiful water features. So someone might have a water feature that's all messed up and it's been a problem for them. So now they're dealing with the pain and they just want to get it fixed. Someone might not have a water feature, but they remember one on their vacation and they just want that in their life. That's a pleasure principle, right? So it's always going to be one or the other 90% of the time, right? So if someone has a pain point on a pond, I might just be like, I want to get that emotion from them. And as soon as I realize it's pain, they're like, oh man, this is so embarrassing. Like, every time my friend comes over, like, they talk shit about it, then I may like, oh gosh, sounds frustrating. And that's what's called a label that you can learn from Chris Voss in this. That sounds frustrating. And be like, yeah, I'm totally frustrated because and then they start talking. All I said was, that sounds frustrating. It sounds frustrating, right? So they talk some more. And then when they finish talking and there's that break, I might say, how long have you been dealing with this? And then they have to, like, so how long? They can say, for 5 years or 1 year, but usually they expand upon that. They'd be like, well, I moved in 5 years ago and it's been a problem ever since. In fact, I hired this guy once to fix it and he didn't do it. And like, they just start talking, right? So that would be an example of how I would ask a probing. I call them calculated questions. I'm being very calculated about what I ask to get them to open up more.
Well, because that relates to us. Like, when you say the pain point, let me give you an example. A woman calls and she's got dog waste in her backyard because her husband just isn't picking it up. He doesn't want to do it, or he says he's going to and he doesn't. And then she's embarrassed because the neighbors can smell it because it's getting so stinky. So yeah, kind of let's role play through that, because this is stuff that actually comes up, and how to use those tactics.
Okay. So let me be thoughtful about this. So here's some things you want to be obvious. If she's like, oh, it's a puppy, like, it'd be like, well, how long have you been dealing with this? Right. You could probably get away with it contextually, right? If she's like, well, yeah, when we got the puppy, a puppy is still 11 months old, right? Right. Well, when we got the puppy, he was really excited about the dog and he would go out there every day and play with it and pick it up. But then he started working out of town, and then now he doesn't take care of the dog anymore. Well, how long have you been dealing with this? Well, it's been about 4 months, and like, that sounds frustrating. Yeah, it is. My neighbors called me, and so that's how it kind of builds on that, right? So, if there's the dog's really old, then what do you do? How long have you been dealing with this? Oh, 10 years. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
No,
It's
I think it's good. So then you're that way. You're building the rapport. You're allowing them to talk. So it's not just like, how many dogs you have?
Yeah.
How long has it been?
Yeah.
What's the
Well, our
service
minimum,
frequency you want?
our minimum's $35 a visit or whatever. Like, all of a sudden she's like, you didn't even ask permission to talk about money. Like, money's taboo with a lot of people, right? So a lot of scoopers, let's say, I don't know how big the community is, but they might just be like, hey, this person sounds annoying. They sound like a pain in the ass. They like might be too critical. Um, and they just get to the point. Well, our minimums are this much per visit. And like, it's kind of a slap in the face because you didn't even ask. Because like, people don't want to know how much, like, I don't want someone to ask me necessarily, how much money do you make? How much money does your wife make? Right? It's kind of taboo. You don't just do that when you just meet someone. You sit down at the bar, you're talking, well, hey, how much money do you make a year? Right? How much money did you pay for that? So if I don't want to just spit out money, I might just be like, hey, Erica, would it be okay if like, are you comfortable talking about money? Sometimes that's over the phone. I might say, are you comfortable talking about money over the phone, Erica? And then I might say yes. And that's a yes or no question, right? But then I might just from there be like, okay, because if it's helpful, I'd love to share with you just like, what my clients are spending on our services in your neighborhood. Would that be helpful? And they go, yeah, that would be great. And then I don't want to just be like, my minimum's 35 or, hey, it's 150 a month or whatever your rates are. What I want to do is expand it out a little bit because you might find customers that can't afford you, right? A lot of them. I don't want to spend that much money, but I bet you have clients that would spend twice as much as you are charging or
Yeah.
more,
I think it
right?
has, yes, you got my brain spinning because they don't feel or see the value at it because they asked how much. You asked them three pre-qual. I've done this, right? I've asked three
Mhm.
pre-qualifying question. How big is your yard? How many dogs you have? How long has it been since the last clean? And
Mhm.
frequency. Instead
Mhm.
of asking all those questions leading up to it and then talk about the money. So then
Yes.
then then the value is in there. And I think because our ticket price is so low, right? For the initial or for the first cleaning, we don't want to spend a bunch of time. But we're not thinking that if we get that customer to be with us, they're going to be with us for the the next 7 years, maybe 9
Mhm.
years.
Yeah.
That's a lot more money than just $100 a month.
Yeah.
We're not looking at it long term. And I've done that. I've been faulty because I got lazy. I'm like, "Ugh, I just want to send it. It's $100, $120." And I've noticed that my closing has plummeted.
Okay, this is fun. Can we take a 2-minute break?
Yeah.
2 minutes, and I have a fun way to go.
Dreaming of starting your own holiday lighting business? Bright Factory has you covered. Introducing the ultimate holiday lighting business in a box. Get ready to light up your community with everything you need to succeed. A complete brand identity, a sleek website, and fully wrapped trailer jam-packed with supplies and equipment. We're talking top-notch uniforms, eye-catching marketing material, and world-class training. Plus, custom videos for your team to ensure they're ready to shine from day one. Ready to turn your holiday lighting dreams into a reality? Visit brightfactory.com today and let Bright Factory light the way to your success. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. My wheels started spinning. Because, yeah, I know I've done that. I haven't wanted to spend the time because I'm just thinking about the short term of what the short term is like. It's going to be 25 bucks for a week or 100 bucks a month. But we're not thinking that person's with us for the next 7 years because they came on when the dog was a puppy. That's worth the extra amount of time, having the connection, letting them speak, letting them feel heard. I'm already thinking about how I want to develop my sales process just from this little conversation. I hope you guys are enjoying this because I am. I was really nervous and excited about this podcast.
Okay. You,
He's
you,
back.
are you in here talking to yourself?
Well, I was talking to the listeners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, check it out. So when I take a phone call, I want to know, do I like this person? When do they want the job? Does it align with my schedule? And if you can afford me, right? I mean, that's kind of what I need to find out. Those are the pre-qualifying things that I have to know before I can do anything, right? Before I go out to their property, before I do anything. So you just said, hey, these are the 3 things I have. How big's your property? How many dogs you have? When's the last time it was cleaned?
Yeah.
Like that, you need to know that before you can do anything. But my calls sometimes are taking, and of course I have bigger tickets, but I also do weekly visits to just clean a pond, and I do quarterly like cleanups, kind of like you're dealing with, right? So, how long could it take me to find out that information? I'd be like, hey, you know what, Erica, could just, when do you want to get this thing done? Like, I don't even know exactly what you want done. You kind of know. I need the dog waste picked up. When do you want to get this done? I want to get it done, before Christmas. Sorry, I can't help you. We're booked out till January. Have a nice day. Boom. I'm done, right? Like, but I don't want to leave that impression with them. Maybe they'll wait for me, right? Maybe they'll find someone else to take care of their dog waste removal for a while and realize that they weren't what they thought they were. They want to get that lady with all that pink flashy stuff. She seems, fun and classy. I want to use her, right? So I want to leave a cool impression with them, but the same thing's going to really apply with you. You need to know those three things, but how many dogs do you have? Okay, cool. What breeds? What's your favorite one? Do you have a favorite? Like all of a sudden we're having some fun things. Like, I can't tell you my favorite. I love them all the same. I'll be like, come on. Are they lap dogs or are they like, guard dogs? Because I just want to make sure when I come out to see you if I'm going to get eaten or if I'm going to get licked to death. Like now we're having fun, right? And they're like, oh, I like this girl. She likes getting licked by the dogs. I don't know. Maybe you do that. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
No, I don't. We need to.
Yeah, now we're having fun. Like now we're having like, wow, she wants to know about my dogs, right? So you have to kind of get into that a little bit. But the can you afford me thing, right? For the long time, I was too cheap. And I was too arrogant to think like, oh, maybe they can't afford me. And I was too cheap. How crazy is that? Right? So that's why when I want to get back to you probably have clients that would pay you 2-3 times the amount of money that you're already charging, right? And you'll never know to get to that next level unless you start to share with people, right? Like a wider bracket. So let's say your minimum, what's your minimum?
Right now,
Yeah.
it's $100 a month.
So 25, is that once a week?
Yeah, we come out one time a week.
Okay. So what if you went out 3 times a week?
That's like, we're looking at like
300.
180.
300.
I dropped the price down.
Well, yeah, I shouldn't drop it that much. I mean, that's 50% off. That's too much. Okay, so there's a good example right there. But see, there's only a handful of ways that you can grow your business. You either charge more, you go more regularly, or you have add-on value stuff, right? Like they buy other things from you while you're there. Maybe they buy their dog food from you. I'm not saying go into the dog food business, but that would be a way to expand your business. So going more frequently would help you grow your business. If you have 100 stops and then you saw them twice as much, you could potentially grow your business double, right? But not if you're reducing your price that much. But you might just be like, hey, is it okay if I share with you like, what my clients invest on our services in your neighborhood? Yes. Okay. Well, perfect. So I don't want you to get upset with me because we service some of our clients like a lot. We take really, really good care of them. They want the highest level service that we offer. So when I share this number with you, just don't gasp and hang up the phone on me. You promise me, Erica?
I promise.
Okay. So we have clients in your area that spend as much as $500 a month with us for services. And then our base price is $100 a month. Which conversation do you think you'd like to have?
We're looking around that $100.
Okay, perfect. That's probably one of our most popular spots. Well, I actually wouldn't do that. I would probably try and figure out how to say one of our most popular spots is, like this 225 range or something, right?
The middle.
And I might even say that I might give them three baselines. I'll be like, so we have clients that spend as much as $500 a month with us for the highest level of service. And then our most popular service rate is around 225 and our baseline is 100. Which conversation would you like to have? And then I would probably preload it like that. And then hopefully they'd be like, the most popular one, I want to buy what everyone else likes too. Tell me about the 225 service. What does that look like? Hopefully you would guide them to that.
And I liked how you said what your neighbors invest instead of spend.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. That sounds way better than the word spend.
Yeah.
And this is like literally this isn't stuff that we think about because we don't know how to sell. I don't know how to sell. Clearly, after talking with you, I'm like, I'm ready to buy my service from you.
Yeah. Well, so that's like when we talked about, how are you hoping I can help today, Erica? Right? That's I might not be able to help you, right? So that gets the person you're talking to at least pull their guard down a little bit and go, okay, let me talk to this person. Maybe they can't help me. Hopefully they can, because I really need help, but maybe they can't help me. So their guard's not up. But if you're like, crooping, spooping, scooping, how can I help you today? Like, how can I help you? I'm going to make money off you somehow. They're like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know if I want their help yet. I don't even know if I can afford them. Right. So the guard's up. But if you're like, hey, how are you hoping I can help you today? Then they're like, hey, I don't even know if they can help me. He's not trying to just sell me something. So the guard's down. And I'm not trying to do that to be sneaky. I'm just trying to do it so I can have a good conversation with them. I can ask them an open-ended question and let them open up to me. They'll be more likely to open up because you've used that one word, hoping. How are you hoping I can help? Changes the complete dynamics.
It does. Now, for somebody that would be new to this and is like, I don't know, how am I going to remember this? Would you suggest having bullet points or like a script? How do you suggest tackling this?
Okay, so scripts can be difficult. So you know that book that I brought. I have it right here. Can I do a shameless plug on this?
No, plug
Okay.
it, please.
So this is the booklet I brought to LCR Summit, Contractor Sales Secrets workbook. And this is full of bullet points. And you can get this free download, not this one in a binder, but you can get this free download at contractorsalessecrets.com. And it's full of bullet points of things that are in there, right? So these are bullet point questions that you can ask. And for me, these are the 8 vital questions that I ask every customer before I go out to their property. And you and I should just have a talk one day and figure out which of these makes sense for you to do. And you can cross out the ones in the book that don't really apply and maybe really highlight the ones that you should really be leaning into. And then go through the bullet points. But when I start coaching with someone, they have this as their guide and their framework to a role play or a conversation. A lot of times they'll be like, have you ever tackled a project like this before? Like they're reading it right out of the book. It just, so we also in the book, and it's something that some contractors really like, is like we have this piece. It's just a visual thing. So it's like, how are you hoping I can help? What do you want to do? When do you want it? Like, so if this just says when are you hoping to start service? How soon did you like to start service? I imagine most people are like immediately, right?
Oh yeah, can you come in the next hour? My
Yeah.
landlord's on the way right now.
Oh God. So how do you handle that?
Well, let them know. I tell them I can look at my schedule, and
Mhm.
then I give them a pretty steep rate. And if they
Okay.
say yes, then I say, all right, we can be out there shortly. I'll put you on route, and then I'll double the rate, and then
Uh-huh.
reroute.
But how do you prep them for that?
I don't. They need me at that point. Like they are desperate, so
Okay.
I don't prep.
So I would still like prep them for it, because what you're doing is you're demonstrating courtesy and empathy when you prep them. So if you're like, oh, well, it's, $50 for me to come out right away, that you should probably quadruple it.
Oh yeah, I usually hit them with like a 200,
Uh-huh.
250. Because
Cool.
usually if it's an emergency, that means they haven't scooped in months and it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But prepping, I didn't know how to prep. I had no idea. So what would I do?
So if they're like, hey, I need you out here, like, hey, Erica, when are you hoping to start service, if you don't mind me asking?
I would like to start within the next couple hours. Can you come out like within the next couple hours?
Wow, it sounds like an emergency.
Yeah, my landlord's actually on the way, and they said that if I
Ooh.
left this dog waste, that I was going to get a ticket.
Oh no. A ticket?
Yeah, a ticket. They were gonna give me a ticket. I was gonna have to pay extra money on my bill.
Okay. Okay. I could potentially make this happen for you. I'd have to check on my technicians and where they're at in their day. I don't want to promise you, but I also don't want you to feel like I'm trying to take advantage of you. But because we do have an emergency service, but I'd have to delay the houses that we already have on our schedule, or have the guys work overtime to make this happen. Um, if I told you it was going to cost you quite a bit of money for us to do it, I don't know if it makes more sense to just take the ticket or to pay me to do it. What do you think?
Well, how much do you think it's going to be?
So our emergency services start at 250.
Oh, okay, cuz he's going to charge me 500, so that's a lot less.
Oh, well, let me see about my schedule then.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you want me to stay on the phone?
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, at least I like prep them. Like, I don't want you to think I'm trying to take advantage of you, but we do have this emergency service, instead of just going like, oh, well, it's 250. Right. And I don't
Mhm.
know if I asked permission to talk to you about money. Right. I probably should have done that first. So if I would have gone back, I'm already evaluating myself on how I did right there. Oh, I didn't ask her to talk about money. Right. But one thing I did is I mirrored you, which you can learn about in the Chris Voss book, when you said they're going to give me a ticket. I'm like, a ticket? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I get a ticket, it's a free drink. I go to the bar and get a beer. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
ticket? Like, I don't know what's a ticket mean? Oh yeah, they penalize me. They're going to charge me extra for my rent. And then now they're digging into their emotion more, and look, they're in their pain.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's like I said, it's not something I thought about because we're just like, boom, here's the price, here it is. And now I can see why my closing is, I don't want to tell you guys what my closing is. It's under 50% right now. I'm embarrassed to even admit it.
We got work to do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm really happy you decided to come on the podcast because I've been thinking about joining your coaching. I was like, I don't know if it would relate to pooper scoopers, but after this conversation, now I know that it does.
Yeah. Yeah. But see how you said I ought to charge them 200? I told you 250, right? So I'm like, I'm going to play with that a little bit. Like, if you're really busy and they really need you, then you can expand that number a little bit. And I don't think it's taking advantage of anybody. It's like, we have to take care of our employees. We have to take care of our team. We have to take care of other clients. We might have to pull them off and have them drive all the way across town to take care of you, and then drive all the way back across town to get them back on schedule, and they have to stay late to make sure everyone gets done. The holidays are coming up. All these things factor in.
Yeah, and it's important to get that information and spend the time because we need to think about the long term too. That potential customer, even though they clearly don't scoop their dog poop. So they need somebody. If you can get them on a reoccurring maintenance plan, they potentially could be with you for years, which is going to equate to a higher ticket price through the longevity of that service.
So I'm already starting to think like, okay, so if they became your client, like there's so many questions I'm having right now. Cause like, do you sign them up on a contract, or is it month to month? If they pay in a year in advance, do they get a discount? Like, all these things start to factor in. We want to lock these clients in, right? So if this client's just like, no, I just need help, I'm moving anyways, then it'd be 500. You know what I mean? It would be more. I'm not going to jeopardize my whole team, my whole route, get people to stay late, work into the dark, for someone who's not going to be my regular client. Right?
Okay. Would you try to ask those pre-qualifying questions or get to know you questions ahead of time, or would you just try to get get the price and then maybe ask the questions afterwards? Like, how would that kind of flow?
We'd have to really evaluate those calls, right? So if that call came in, like if you got, how many calls do you get like that? I'd be like, how many times you get a year or a quarter do you get those? You'd be like, oh, it just rarely happens. I'm like, okay, well then maybe we don't need to invest too much time into it. But if you're like 2 or 3 times a month, I get these crazy panic calls because of the HOA or whatever, right? Then I'd be like, this is something we need to figure out how to do. And that shows itself. I'll tell you, I used to, this is funny. I used to charge by the hour, right? And I used to charge for my guys by the hour. So first it was me by the hour, and then I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge that same amount of money for my guy to go out and do it, right? So we used to do this repair on a pond, right? And I hadn't done that many of them. Like, I'd been doing it for 7, 8 years, and this particular problem didn't reveal itself for 7 or 8 years, and then it started to show up. And then it would take us 5 hours to fix, right? Because we were like, oh, how do you do it? And we got more efficient. And it was 4 hours, and then it was 3 hours, and it was 2 hours. And then one time I sent a technician out to do this repair, and he got it done in an hour, right? That's the 2-second lean right there, just getting better and more efficient. And I used to charge. So let's say I charge 65 an hour times 5. This product was like a $500 fix. Let's just say, 400 something was for us to fix this problem. And now we were fixing that same problem for $65. And I looked at this paperwork. I'm like, wait, why are we charging $65 to do this $500 work order? He's like, well, it only took me an hour. It didn't take me 5. I'm like, what? This is a $500 work order. I don't care if it takes you an hour or not. That's what it takes to do that. I don't want to get penalized because we become more efficient and you have more tools on your truck. And because, we're really good at what we do. We fixed their problem quickly. We should be able to charge more. And today I charge $9.95 for that work.
In our industry, we have different ways of people pricing. The per bucket, the per minute, the per hour, or flat rate. I like to do the flat rate. And some people would ask me, like, well, would you charge less if it took less time? Say if it took you only 25 minutes versus the hour.
Mhm.
No, because if I send my scooper out that's been with me for 3 years and she knows how to navigate and knows how to scoop like a G because
Yeah,
she moves quickly, I'm not dropping my rate down because
we're
she's
more
quick.
efficient.
Because
Yeah,
if I go out there, it's gonna take me double because I'm in the office more than I should be.
yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah, I totally agree. I don't like the yeah, charging per minute. It's charging for what the job needs to be and for what your business needs to operate at.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is cool, man. I feel like we could chit chat forever. It's a pleasure chatting with you. If the listeners want to get in touch with you, do some training, where do they find you?
If you want to train with me, if you download that document, contractorsalessecrets.com, we're kind of going to reach out to you, send you an email, I'll talk to you about it. But you can hit me on Instagram at the Pond Digger. I probably do the most interaction with people, with people who want me on their podcasts or anything like that. I do from there. That's a great way to get a hold of me.
And that's on Instagram, right?
Yep. And of
Yeah.
course, my podcast, the Pond Digger podcast, I really enjoy my podcast. I love talking to people. I love putting out the content and the value. And inside my coaching group, I just wanted to tell you this, Erica. I don't know if you're seeing it now because I made the change with the podcast, but now I have a weekly accountability call that we do in the coaching group, and I'm starting to feed that into my podcast. So like that accountability call is recorded, and then I throw that into the podcast on Fridays typically. And so that's kind of a fun way to get a vibe of how I roll on it during the coaching calls.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. The most recent one, well, not the most recent, but I was listening to the one where you were talking about the knowledge panel. Blew my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I have one, by the way, which I'm very excited about.
That
I'm
was
actually,
exciting. That was very nice.
yeah. And then the one you were chit chatting with the guy that's overseas, that you
Yeah,
guys kind of like, were you guys in the same coaching group
yeah,
together and you just clicked?
yeah. See,
Yeah.
that was the interesting thing because and I don't know if we're running out of time, but when you said it depends on how hard you work at it and how hard you apply it. So that was one of the interesting things because in 2019, I was coming out of things. 2020, I joined this coaching group and I went hard. Like everyone, I was turning heads. Everyone was like, what is Eric doing? I've been here for 4 months and he's been here for 4 weeks and he's already surpassed me. What's happening? So I became like this beacon to get people moving. And when I finished out in that group and I was like segueing to go do something else, a lot of contractors were like, wait, where are you going? Because as I was helping myself, I was helping others.
Hmm.
Right. And then I was coaching because I thought, well, this is how I would do it. I don't like the way you said this. I would say it like this instead of that. Right. Or, hey, let's find that middle ground. Let's do the 225 in the middle and tell them that's our most popular and go to here. So because of that, when I started to leave, I had a lot of people reach out to me. Like a dozen people were like, wait a minute, where are you going? Like wherever you're going, I want to go there too. And so that's kind of that. Otherwise, I probably might not even have a coaching program. Those guys made me.
Well, you were just doing what you were doing and people were noticing. And I think when you are on the right track and you're making waves, people are going to notice and they want success leaves clues and they want to follow. So,
Yeah. Hey, so the fifth inning weekly compass call, episode 204, that was an interesting one. And if it's kind of a long one, it's about an hour. I wanted to share with you more than the listeners, but the listeners can take it too. But like usually when I do the weekly compass call in my coaching group, I chat about something for 15 minutes usually that should apply to helping you be better at your business. So the fifth inning, if you're not familiar with it was about the Dodgers winning the World Series in the fifth inning. You're like, what does the Dodgers winning World Series have to do with me being better in my business scooping poop? But
Yeah.
like I go off for 15 minutes and talk about that, right? And then for the next 45 minutes, we're doing Q&A with the group. And then one of our inner circle members was having trouble with this one situation. And we all went real deep on trying to help her with that particular problem in her business that was actively happening at that moment. So it was really cool.
I like that because entrepreneurship is freaking lonely. At least this is my experience. I have been the loneliest I've ever been like over the last 2 years. I don't have friends around me that are business owners, and everybody I talk to, it's online and I don't get that like
Mhm.
person connection. So having like an inner circle, having this accountability group
Mhm.
of people that are going through this stuff, it's so huge cuz at times you feel like you're losing it. It's like, why am I doing this? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. You should come and hang out with us for a couple months because I think from what I understand, the way you want to grow your business and your networking, I think it's something you can do for your community. If you see the format and the framework of which we have it, I think it would help you a lot.
I do too, because I get asked a lot about this, and I don't have anything to offer. And I'm not gonna look up on Chat GPT and then try to make a video about it because I can't fake it till I make it. Like that's just not my personality type. And
Hmm.
so I'm like, I don't know you guys. I don't have any value to bring you because I haven't figured this part out. And it makes me mad because I want to be able to bring the value to my community and share what I've learned.
Well, I think it. I have imposter syndrome too as well. It sounds like you might be battling with that a little bit. So, like, who I am today, when I'm helping people, I'm helping who I was in 2020. And I can go back for 25 years. I mean, myself coming up through business, I have a lot of back experience I can help. But like, my main focus right now is how can I help who I was 5 years ago? Right? That's who I'm helping, right? So like you're thinking like, hey, I don't know enough to help someone who doesn't know, but you can help yourself who you were 2 years ago when you started this business. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, I do. That's like that bootstrap marketing, but it's a little different than it was when I started the business in 18. There wasn't a lot of pooper scoopers. So
Mhm.
I was closing jobs like crazy because there was nobody else. Now, because of my big mouth over here on the YouTubes, there's a lot of pooper scoopers. There's a lot going on. And so now I actually have to learn how to sell, which I didn't really have to learn how to sell back then. So I'm like,
Good. Good.
okay, what do I got to do? I got to figure
Yeah.
this out.
That's exciting actually. That's good. And I look, without competition there's no innovation, right? So you know in order for you to double your business you need to work harder, right? You can't just like be cruising along. You have to put in more work, and you might not put that work in if you didn't have the competition. You'd be like, oh, I'm dominating. I sell 78% of closing rates and da 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 da. Now you have to work harder. That's exciting for me.
Oh, so I was like the only one on YouTube creating content, and so now my buddy William, he's creating content, and one of his videos popped up on my feed today, and I was like, "Oh, damn! I know that's gonna be a good video." And I'm like, "Oh, I gotta pump one out this week that's like just as good." And so now it's like I want to make sure I'm pumping out 2 or 3 videos a week. Before I was like, "Well, whatever. Nobody else is making content on this. It's not a big deal."
Do you want to talk content for a minute, or should we do that off camera?
I don't let's talk off camera. Let's end this
You,
one.
you're not going to want your other fellow pooper scoopers to hear what I'm about to say.
Nope, sorry you guys. This will have to be for Krupin's Content Lab when I go
Yes,
ahead and eventually launch it, which
that's what
I'm working on it, folks. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you so much, Eric, for hopping on the podcast. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, I try to drop a new episode every single Monday, and until next time, bye.